Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I'm John from Bike Fit Advisor. So in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about something I've seen a lot more of in the last year, especially, and that is bike fittings or bike consultations that I've been doing with folks that have a Peloton bike. Even before COVID, Pelotons and indoor cycling, of course, were extremely popular, but the pandemic just kind of kicked everything into overdrive, it seems, with that. And now with everything going on, we have pros competing on a circuit on Zwift and all sorts of things. So I've had a lot of folks that have reached out to me and wanted to find biomechanic or bike fit fixes to help with their stationary bike, or sometimes, like I said, with their Peloton bikes. And I'm not going to do a review of a Peloton and list pros and cons, etc. That's not what this is about. I want to address something that I've seen kind of crop up a couple of different times that have been kind of similar threads that I've seen between these clients. Let me start by saying that we tend to see a lot of the same issues that we see with stationary cycling in general with the Pelotons. So the fact that the bike doesn't really move the same underneath you as it does on the road or on the trail definitely can set things up for some other issues related to back pain or saddle discomfort and things. And none of this really changes with the Peloton. Those are kind of all included. I want to talk about some issues that crop up that are sort of specific to the Peloton. And I won't beat around the bush here. The problems track back to one particular issue, and that has to do with there is often too much bar height adjustment on the Peloton bikes. Now, I know they build this height adjustment on the front end into the bikes specifically, I'm guessing because they're really building this thing for the masses. It's not really built for folks that are diehard road or mountain bike cyclists that spend, 5 days a week on their bike anyway. And so there are often riders that are kind of going for comfort and gravitating towards these very high bar positions. But I've seen it kind of coax even some experienced cyclists towards this as well, to the point where many folks look like they're sitting very much upright. And then, especially on the Peloton handlebars, they tip up at the very end, which complicates things further. It raises us up even more and extends our hands out further in front of us. And what this does is it throws the balance and the stability of the trunk completely off. There really is some benefit to be gained from having a mildly aggressive position on your bike even, or something that more closely mimics what you typically ride on your road bike, for instance. The main thing we're missing here is when we are in a slightly more aggressive position and not in this very upright posture, we have a much easier time engaging this triangle of support that occurs. And it really starts with the latissimus muscle or lats that helps stabilize the lumbar spine and the pelvis, and that translates up to the shoulder because the lats attach to the shoulder, and then they allow our abdominal muscles and stabilize the pelvis further and help with that balance to the hands then. And so we get this, we basically build stability between the hands and what we're sitting on and our pelvis with a slightly more aggressive position. When we sit upright, we don't really get a chance to engage those muscles in the same way. And when we have this triangle support, when we have good balance and good stability between the hands and the pelvis, what we have is a stable base that then our legs can push from. Not to mention the fact that a slightly more aggressive position, or at least a non-upright position, makes it easier to access the gluteal muscles or the rear end muscles and help kind of balance that quad versus hip extensor balance through our pedal stroke. Now, that doesn't mean we have to mock up our road position exactly on the Peloton, but it does lend itself towards just not gravitating towards those higher and higher positions and maintaining a bit of aggressive positioning. One other thing that I've seen and a couple of folks have struggled with is the fact that on the Peloton, you don't have a choice of crank length, really. They come with 170 millimeter cranks on there, and you really, to my knowledge right now, there's not an option even aftermarket unless you have somebody make something for you to replace those. The 170 millimeters isn't terrible. I still think there's probably benefit to many folks to go shorter than that on occasions, and a few people might feel better on slightly longer cranks. I have other videos on crank length, and so I will post one up here so you can kind of review some of that. But again, we're really unable to change this because the right crank arm on these Peloton bikes is actually welded to a fixing plate, which is effectively the spider of the bike. So that's all I have for this one. Nothing certainly earth-shattering, but it is something that I've seen come up a fair number of times. And in many instances, we have solved some movement issues and certainly some discomfort on the bike or on the Peloton with kind of reverting a little bit closer to the rider's more standard bar to saddle position. So if you have any questions about this, put them in the comments down below. And as always, if you have recommendations for topics for videos, I'm always looking for good things to kind of research and provide answers on. So put those down in the comments below as well. And that's all for this one. I will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.